We got a really interesting email this week. Dear Dogs and, thank you so much for the great videos. I've really been enjoying them. I think your next video should be on training treats that we can use for dogs. Great idea. And you should use your own dogs to test this. Especially Smooch, and you should make sure that Smooch just gets a whole bunch of treats in any case. Just saying. Thanks a lot, Mrs. Gertrude Miller. Well, thank you, Mrs. Miller. I think that's a fantastic idea, and today's video we are going to be looking at the different training treats that you can use with dogs. I do have my suspicions, though, that Mrs. Gertrude Miller is probably not your real name, and if I look a little bit closer, I see that the email address that this actually came from is cats are stupid, har har, smoochy is the bomb at gmail.com. I've got to say I'm a little bit proud that my dog is able to send me an email and to con me into giving her extra treats. A little bit scared, but mostly proud. So in this video, we're really only going to be looking at treats as we would be using in training a dog. I wasn't sure if it's okay to mention brand names on these videos, and the research that I did wasn't particularly helpful, so to be on the safe side, I'm not going to mention any brand names today. I'm just going to refer to commercially made dog treats as such. Obviously, with any treats that you're going to be using with your dog, you need to consider if the dog has any allergies, and you need to make sure that whatever they have an allergy to is not in the ingredient list. And you also need to consider weight gain. If your dog has dodged a few salads and is prone to packing on some extra weight when they have extra calories in their diet, just make sure that whatever treats you are using are either a low-calorie option or you're not using so many that it's actually causing your dog to gain even more weight. Treats should never form the main part of a dog's diet for obvious reasons. The recommendation is that they should only make up a maximum of 10% of the dog's total food intake. I think that's quite generous. I'd stick more around about 5%. Dogs operate a lot more on their sense of smell than they do on their sense of taste, which accounts for some of the disgusting things that they're quite happy to put into their mouths. And this is why your training treat needs to smell nice more than it needs to taste nice to the dog. When you're using treats as well, be sure to use the right size treat for the dog. It's so much better to use lots of little. So in other words, use a smaller treat or a smaller piece of a treat, but use it frequently so that your rate of reinforcement is high, and correspondingly the actual size of the treat is going to be quite small. You're going to get a lot more bang for your buck that way. And make sure to use soft treats, especially with puppies. Their mouths are sore while they are teething, and if you cannot easily break that treat just by using your soft fingertips, it's way too hard for your puppy to chew. If you're going to be making your own treats for your dogs, that's brilliant, but just do an ingredient check beforehand to make sure that there's nothing in there that might be toxic to your dog. There's a lot of foodstuffs that are totally fine for us humans, but for dogs they can actually be quite problematic. Today we're going to be conducting a completely unscientific experiment. We're going to be using 5 different treats, 5 different tastes, and 5 different dogs. The different treats that we're going to be using is a commercial dry treats. Then we're going to be using a commercial semi-dry treats. The good old-fashioned hot dog or Vienna sausage, the dog biscuit, and homemade liver cake. So our first category, how easy is it to use the treats and what is the cost like with this treat? The dry commercial dog treat, really easy to use and not very expensive. The semi-dry commercial treat, a little bit trickier to use, not so easy to break, and a little bit more expensive than the dry commercial treat. The hot dog and the Vienna sausage, super easy to use, but surprisingly expensive. Especially if you've got big dogs like mine, the cost to use the hot dogs, the Vienna sausages, is going to rack up really quickly. Biscuits, cheap, readily available, but really difficult to use. Every time you try to break a biscuit in half, you end up making a crumb-nado with just crumbs flying everywhere, and the dog's attention is everywhere but on you. Liver cake, really easy to use, and the ingredients are not expensive at all, but baking. You can of course go with an economies of scale and once or twice a month just bake up a whole batch and pop them into the freezer, but it's still quite a lot of effort compared to the others that you can literally walk into a shop and just take it off the rack. And pay, obviously. Don't steal. The dry commercial treats, there's obviously wheat in them and there's quite a few preservatives and flavorants, so not really great for your dogs. The semi-dry commercial treat, quite a lot of salt in this particular one that I used, which was more like a dried sausage than anything else. Quite a lot of preservatives as well. The hot dog of Vienna, again some cereal fillers there, preservatives, flavorants and colorants. The biscuit, very high wheat content and lots of preservatives. The liver cake, no colorants, no flavorants, no preservatives, 100% natural. The drawback to that is that it doesn't last long. I put a little bit of garlic powder into my liver cake, which really seems to give it that extra nice zesty smell for the dogs, but in large quantities garlic can be very toxic to dogs, so do that with care. This recipe that I'm using now, I've fine-tuned over the years. It's almost perfect now, and what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to put this recipe onto our Facebook group, so you can go along, give it a bash, try it for your dogs, and the link to our Facebook group will be in the description of this video. The dog must obviously want the treat. This test has a look at how keen the dog is to get the treat, in other words how high his motivation is, and it also takes a look at the dog's willingness to re-engage after he's eaten that treat. The rating which we're giving to the treats in this test is influenced by the dog's attention and their level of interest in the treat. also be really quick and easy to eat. If the dog's having to whip out a knife and fork to finish off the treat, you've lost your opportunity, and the dog is actually not entirely sure what it is that he's being rewarded for. The test that we're using to have a look at how quickly our dogs can eat the treat today is called the TLM test. Again, highly scientific, and that stands for the tastes like more test. This test basically has a look at how quickly the dog can consume the treat and be ready for another reinforcement opportunity. Then, very important, the ew test. If you're using treats with your dog, it's only a matter of time before you leave a treat in your pocket or your bait bag, and in a couple of days' time you either smell something really, really manky, or you tootle along to your next training class and you stick your hand into your bait bag and it's just terribly unpleasant. So this is quite an important consideration with treats, is how long do they last for. So what I did was I took each of these treats and I put them into an unopened container and I left them in there for a couple of days, and then I went to go and have a look-see. It's footage that should just go into a vault somewhere and never be unopened. I will share with you my experiences. The commercial dog treat was okay. It was a little bit dried out and it had more of a snap to it when you broke it, but it was okay. The semi-dry commercial dog treat was much harder to break, but again, it didn't look too bad. It was just a little bit dried out. The hot dog Vienna sausage, it's not pretty what had happened in there. It really, imagine Ebola virus catching rabies. That's kind of what it looked like in there. It's no. Just no. The biscuit, there was no change. It was just harder, which obviously lets me know there were a ton of preservatives in there. It was just as hard to break as it had been before. On the plus side, though, there were less crumbs. The liver cake, sweet mother of pearl, it will haunt me for a very, very long time. I peered into it and it was sort of simultaneously the most beautiful and most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. There was virtually a whole village that had taken up residence in that container, and not good. Don't leave liver cake or any perishable treat in your pocket or your bait bag. Just don't do it. So the results are in of our highly rigorous scientific testing. Not at all. Let's see which treat is best for your dog. In first place, with a whopping score of 3.66 out of 5 is the liver cake. In second place, hot on the liver cake's heels with a score of 3.56 out of 5 is the hot dog or Vienna sausage. In a tie for third place is the dry commercial treat and the semi-dry commercial treat. And in stone cold last place with a score of 2.44 out of 5 is the biscuit. So there you have it, guys. The training treats that you can be using for your dogs. This has really just been a tongue-in-cheek look at it more than anything else. Use what your dog likes, but also don't be afraid to try something new. You never know, you could get a better response from your dog, faster learning from your dog if you use a treat that they find much more motivating. As always, we really appreciate your feedback and your comments. Please drop us a line in the comment section below, and until then, we'll see you next time.